This house is really tough. My parents are both bedridden and my older brother uses a wheelchair. Should keep your voice down, they might hear you. But I need to say it out loud. Imagine being in my shoes. I come home tired from work every day, only to find a house full of sick people. It's really sad. Lately, when my husband gets home, he starts complaining right away. I'm scared his complaints will wake my in-laws and Bill, who are sleeping in the other rooms. But Brian, you just lie down and ask about dinner and a shower. You never check on your family. I've been saying this. I'm exhausted from work and can't handle everything alone. If you won't help, you can't complain. Wait, are you misunderstanding something here? Misunderstand what? Taking care of the house is your job, isn't it? Who do you think pays the bills here? Don't act like you're better than me. You couldn't survive without me. My name is Rachel and I'm 32 years old. I've been married for 6 years. I lost my parents in a car accident when I was in elementary school and grew up in foster care until I finished high school. After that, I found a job at a factory that makes electronic parts, which is part of a big company that makes electrical equipment. My husband joined the main company a year after I started working there. We met when he came to work at our factory, started dating, and later got married. Before we got married, my husband Bill worked as a freelance system engineer and lived alone in a rented apartment that he also used as his office. After we got married, we moved in with his parents. When I first met my in-laws, they welcomed me warmly, even though they knew I grew up in foster care. I had often felt looked down upon because I didn't have parents, so their kindness meant a lot to me. A few years ago, my mother-in-law fell ill and became mostly bedridden. I decided to quit my job and became a full-time homemaker to take care of her. On her better days, she taught me how to do household chores, which I wasn't very good at. Now I have 2 sons, and I always wanted to cook together with my daughter-in-law someday. I'm so glad you're here, Rachel. I often found myself thinking, if my mom were still alive, would we have spent time together in the kitchen like this? Sometimes when I made a mistake while cooking, my husband would criticize me, but my in-laws would eat quietly without complaining. She put a lot of effort into it, so just eat quietly instead of complaining. My father-in-law would scold my husband. Bill visited us only once a month, but he always had a smile on his face. He would bring sweets from famous shops and share them with me. He was always considerate and kind, like a real brother. Being part of their family made me truly happy. However, 3 years ago when my father-in-law retired, my mother-in-law got pneumonia and became mostly bedridden. She had been looking forward to traveling with her husband after his retirement, so it was devastating for her. I did everything I could to cheer her up. My father-in-law, now retired, took an active role in caring for her. Bill also came over to help out, and slowly but surely, her smile returned. The next year, my father-in-law also fell ill. He spent about 2 months in the hospital, and like my mother-in-law, became mostly bedridden. Surprisingly, my husband didn't visit him in the hospital, but Bill visited often and helped care for him, which was a huge relief. Taking care of his father without complaint is only natural, Bill would say to me. On the other hand, my husband hasn't been helping with my mother-in-law's care at all, not even when I'm at the hospital. I have a job, you know. It's not like John's laid-back situation where he can stay at home, my husband argues. It frustrates me, but with John's help, we managed while my father-in-law was in the hospital. Now, though, we have to take care of both of them. I thought it was normal to care for my in-laws, but it's disappointing that my husband isn't cooperative at all. Hey, could you pitch in a bit on your days off? I asked him. I think it would make your mom and dad happy. I don't have time for that, he replied. John doesn't even live here, but he always comes to help out. Why don't you do anything when you live here? That's because he doesn't live here. Be grateful I'm even staying here, my husband retorted. As time passed, my husband's language grew even harsher. I never realized he could be so hurtful, and my disappointment only deepened. John's visits to check on his parents and help with shopping and chores were a huge relief. I was starting to adjust to this routine, hoping we could make it work. But then John had a car accident and suffered a severe spinal injury. Now he's in a wheelchair. Why does everything bad keep happening? I lamented, feeling very upset. With John now in a wheelchair, he had to move back in with his parents. Another mouth to feed, great. Is this your fault? What are you talking about? Ever since I married you, it's been one disaster after another. Are you some kind of jinx? My husband exclaimed. His words made me wonder if there was some truth to it. Maybe I was bringing bad luck to everyone around me. Should I just disappear? But if I left, what would happen to my in-laws and John? I couldn't imagine my husband taking care of all 3 of them. Since John moved back in, my husband rarely came home. He spent long hours at work, had business dinners, played golf, or went out with friends on his days off. John is adjusting to life in a wheelchair and can manage some things on his own, but not everything. He's still the same kind-hearted person he was before the accident. Sometimes I wonder if he and my husband are really brothers. My in-laws and John have been hurt by how my husband treats me. They've even said I could leak him if I wanted to, but I just couldn't bring myself to do it. Then one night, my husband came home drunk and brought a woman with him. "Hey, I'm home. This is my maid," my husband slurred, introducing the woman. "Come on, she must be your wife. She actually looks like a maid though." "Who are you?" "I'm Brian's girlfriend. He said he wanted to show me what his wife looks like, so here I am." "I didn't expect such an old lady though," the woman said arrogantly. "What's your problem coming to my house? Chill out. I'd brought Brian home because he's drunk. You could at least thank me," my husband slurred in response. "Don't act so superior, maid," he added before passing out. "Don't sleep here, Brian," she said, trying to wake him up. "Oh well, I can't help it. I'll leave him to you," she shrugged and laughed. I was on the verge of tears, staring at my drunken husband snoring in the hallway. I wish I were just a maid. At least then I wouldn't feel so embarrassed. I could keep things professional. The next morning, I confronted my husband about bringing a woman home. "What's the big deal?" "I'm hungover this early in the morning, you know." "The woman who came back with you yesterday said she was your girlfriend." "She said that, huh? Is it true?" "Yeah, it is," my husband smirked, showing no remorse. I felt my heart grow cold as he admitted his affair so casually. "So you've been cheating?" "Well, I guess you could say that, but you're not even a woman to me anymore." "What do you mean? Why do you think I married you?" "I thought you would make a good maid. My mother was often sick and I needed someone to take care of her when necessary. That's why I married you, plain and simple." "I don't understand." "A woman without a family won't complain, no matter how I treat her. You have nowhere else to go, so you have to stay here." Well, I didn't expect my father and brother would also need care. But whether it's one person or three, it's all the same. As my husband laughed and joked about it, I felt my strength draining away. Had he always seen me this way? The realization that he married me for these reasons brought tears to my eyes. Seeing my distress, my husband laughed again. "I'll leave you here, so make sure you take good care of them and don't complain about whatever I do outside. You don't have the right to do that. You're just a housekeeper and a caregiver," my husband declared. I was too exhausted to argue further, and leaving wasn't an option either. Like my husband pointed out, I had nowhere else to go and no one else to rely on. But more than anything, I couldn't bear to abandon my in-laws and Bill, who had shown me such kindness. They had given me a sense of belonging and warmth that I had never known before. How could I possibly leave them behind? If I divorce my husband, I'll become a stranger to them. They're the only family I have, and I can't let go of that feeling, I thought to myself. Seeing that I couldn't argue back, my husband grew even more audacious. He didn't hesitate to use foul language in front of my in-laws and Bill. "I'm so unlucky, burdened by these three. I need to blow off some steam or I can't take it anymore," he complained. From my perspective, he wasn't doing anything to help around the house or with caregiving. Instead, he did as he pleased, including having affairs. It seemed like he was enjoying himself while I struggled. "Oh well, I'm taking my paid leave next month and going on a trip." "A trip to Hawaii with my girlfriend," my husband announced. "What? So it's a vacation with your girlfriend while I handle everything at home?" I responded incredulously. "You're technically my wife, but you're not my main woman. You're just a caregiver, so this isn't an affair trip." "It's a trip with my main woman," he explained casually. I was left speechless by his brazen declaration. There was no use arguing with him anymore, and honestly, I didn't have the energy to argue or even feel angry anymore. I see. Do as you wish," I replied quietly. His announcement about going on a trip with his girlfriend didn't stir a hint of jealousy in me. It made me realize once again that I had no feelings left for my husband. The only reason I stayed was for my in-laws and Bill. I couldn't bear to leave them behind. That was all that mattered to me. My husband proudly shared his plans for a trip with his mistress with his family. But my in-laws and Bill looked at him with cold eyes. So the following month, my husband left on his affair trip, full of excitement. "You take care of the three of them without any trouble. That's all you're good for," he told me before leaving. Instead of feeling angry, I felt relieved that I wouldn't have to listen to his sarcastic remarks for at least a week. That night, I enjoyed a peaceful evening, and my in-laws and Bill seemed a bit happier. And then I slept well. The next morning, I woke up late and rushed downstairs. Oh no, I overslept. You must all be hungry. But when I rushed into the living room, I was stunned by what I saw. It felt surreal, as if I were still dreaming. Was this real? I had seen this scene so many times in my dreams. "What's the matter, Rachel? You look like you've seen a ghost," Mama said with a smile. "I think I need to wake up properly," I mumbled, turning to go back to my bedroom. "You're definitely awake, Rachel. This isn't a dream. We're in the middle of a strategy meeting," Mama reassured me. In the living room, there was a whiteboard set up, and Bill was standing in front of it, writing something. The board read, "Escape Plan." I couldn't believe my eyes. Why was Bill standing? Where was his wheelchair? I glanced around and noticed it folded up in a corner of the hallway. Come on, Rachel, don't just stand there. Come sit at the table, Mama urged me. Isn't this a dream? I asked, still trying to grasp the reality of the situation. Well, shall we execute the plan? Phil said with a mischievous smile, standing up. Mama also rose from her seat, ready to follow him. I nearly collapsed seeing the three of them, who were supposed to be frail and bedridden, standing before me. And then a whirlwind week unfolded. When my husband returned from his trip, he called with an excited voice. I'm at the airport now, heading home with my girlfriend. Have dinner ready. She'll be living with us from now on. Don't worry, you'll stay right here, taking care of us, playing the role of a housemaid for both me and her. Oh, I see. Do as you wish, I replied quietly. Then you're a pitiful woman, you know. You can't even complain when your husband brings another woman home. You have nowhere else to go, no family to rely on. You're stuck clinging on to me. Anyway, keep on serving me, he taunted. He seemed to be reveling in his own satisfaction, pleased that everything was going according to his plan. I remained silent. An hour later, I received a frantic call from him, a stark contrast from his earlier tone. What? What's going on? What do you mean there's a stranger in our house? Oh, they must have moved in, I replied calmly. Who are they? What are you talking about? Well, it's a rental property, isn't it? Once we moved out, it's rented to someone else. The real estate agent said he appreciated how well we kept the place clean, my husband explained. What do you mean, we moved out? Our home was a rented single-family house we moved into when we got married. It was meant for us and my in-laws, with Phil covering the rent, I clarified. Indeed, most of our living expenses were covered by Phil. Initially, my husband contributed to utilities and other costs. However, as my mother-in-law and Phil's health declined, he started withholding his contributions, arguing that his presence alone was enough support. Bill had reservations about his brother's behavior but didn't feel he could say much after moving out. Then he had a traffic accident that left him partially paralyzed initially. He believed it would be a permanent condition but began recovering surprisingly quickly, though it seemed temporary. This prompted him to move back in with his parents. Despite my in-laws actually improving in health, Bill and Mama pretended to still be frail to deceive my husband. They started planning to leave the house, with Bill's help being crucial for their scheme. This led him to return home. My in-laws had secretly purchased a retirement home with their savings and retirement funds, preparing for the future. Bill handled all the paperwork while they decided on their move. Upon discovering my husband's trip with his mistress, they decided it was time to put their plan into action. I was completely taken aback when they revealed their plan to me. To make matters better, they had already arranged a place for me to stay, they said. I apologize for keeping this from you as well, Rachel. I thought you might not be able to keep this secret because you're such an honest person. There's no way to thank you enough for everything you've done for us, my in-laws said as they held my hand and smiled. I wish I could spend more time with them, I said tearfully. You have your own life, dear. You don't have to be tied down to us. My parents are in good hands with me around, Rachel. You don't have to worry about a thing. But you know you're always welcome to visit. You mean more to us than a real daughter. We sincerely pray for your happiness. I was so overwhelmed with gratitude and happiness that I couldn't stop crying. When I told my husband about this, he was speechless. He must have turned pale, as he had his eyes on my Phil's retirement funds. He used to tell me to get hold of my Phil's bank card. Now he realized that's not going to happen. Where am I supposed to live? What about my stuff? He demanded. You didn't have much stuff. The furniture and appliances belonged to my Phil. Your parents sold your belongings, including expensive bags and watches, and gave me the money as a down payment for alimony, I explained. Down payment for what? He asked, bewildered. It's alimony for all the verbal abuse you've subjected me to. And I'll also claim additional alimony for your affair, I asserted. What? I'm not paying alimony to a caregiver, he retorted. It doesn't matter what you say. Legally, I was your wife, so I have the right to claim alimony from both you and your mistress, I replied firmly. Well, that settles it, he muttered, defeated. Wait, where are you now? Let's meet and talk, he pleaded. No way, I never want to see your face again, and I'm not telling you where I am, I replied firmly. No way. I'll send the divorce papers and alimony claim to your office, I stated resolutely. After that, he made numerous attempts to contact me, but I blocked him. Despite his reluctance to proceed with the divorce, Bill hired a lawyer, and we managed to finalize it. I received a lump sum payment for alimony. As it turned out, the woman he cheated with was married to his friend, and her furious husband confronted him at his office, exposing everything. This led to my husband losing his job. The woman was also kicked out of her house after her affair with my husband was discovered before their trip together. Initially, my husband had planned for them to return home together, but their relationship fell apart. Unable to secure a new job, he now struggles with debts from his past lavish spending and alimony payments, juggling multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet. He asked my Bill for help, but of course, he refused and brushed it off with a laugh. Later on, I found a new job thanks to a referral from Phil, and I'm truly enjoying my work every day. I still regularly meet with my in-laws, who treat me like their own daughter. I always eagerly anticipate our time together. Additionally, Bill has found happiness with a wonderful woman whom he's marrying. She's incredibly kind, and they make a perfect pair. I was deeply moved when Bill invited me to their wedding. When he said, "I would be honored if you could attend as my sister," I couldn't hold back my tears. I'm hopeful that I can maintain this wonderful relationship with my in-laws and Bill for years to come.
Hello, my name is Macy. I'm 42 years old and have been married twice. My second marriage has been wonderful, but my first was a disaster. My first husband's name is Bobby, and we were high school sweethearts. I was a cheerleader and he was a jock. We had a lot of fun together, and he made me happy back then. He was my first boyfriend, so I did everything for him because I thought he was the one I'd be with forever. We planned to go to the same university so we could stay together, but in my second year, when I was 19, I got pregnant. My family was upset, and I wasn't thrilled either. My mom kept telling me that life with Bobby wouldn't be easy. My family never liked him but couldn't really explain why. They just had a bad feeling about him. As a teenager, I wanted to prove them wrong and rebel, so I ignored their concerns. Both our families agreed to support us until we graduated and got good jobs, and I'm still very thankful for that. Bobby and I got married at the courthouse and had our first child. At first, Bobby was a great father, and I felt like I was proving everyone wrong. Then 2 years later, I got pregnant again. By then, I had graduated from college, but I had to quit my job to take care of the kids. Bobby worked 2 jobs to support us. Life was hard, but at that time, I felt that as long as I had Bobby with me, I could handle anything. But a couple of months after our second child was born, Bobby started acting very differently. I tried to talk to him about it, but he wouldn't listen. One day, I took the kids out for a walk and came back to an empty apartment. All of Bobby's things were gone. I panicked, and seeing me panic made the kids cry. I tried calling him several times, but it went straight to voicemail. I remember rushing to my mother's house with the kids crying while I tried not to break down. When my mother opened the door, she looked worried and let us in. "What happened?" she asked. "I think Bobby left me," I said. "What? What do you mean?" "I took the kids for a walk, and when we got back, all his stuff was gone. I can't reach him." "Oh no, do you know why he might have left?" "I don't know. He'd been acting very differently for a while. But he wouldn't talk to me. And then today, he just left." "Okay, calm down. We'll wait a while, and if he doesn't come back, we'll file for divorce. I'll help you out." But I loved him. How could he do this to his children? "I know. I wish I could find him for you and ask him all these questions, but we have to move on. Not because he'll heal you, but because you have 2 kids to raise." My mom was right. I spent the next few months painfully getting over him while raising 2 kids who looked a lot like him. I cried myself to sleep many nights, but eventually, months turned into years, and I slowly got over the pain. My kids obviously asked questions about their father, and when they were old enough, I told them the truth. They were devastated but surprisingly understanding. As a family, we learned to live past the pain. My mom was a huge help and made raising 2 kids much easier than it would have been alone. 13 years after Bobby left, I met my current husband, Fred, at a bar during one of my friend's birthday parties. My mom was watching the kids, so I thought it was a good time to relax and have some fun with my friends. Most of the night, I stayed with my friends, chatting and laughing. Towards the end of the night, Fred approached me. My friends had been encouraging me to meet someone for years, but I was too traumatized by Bobby to try. So when Fred came up to me, my friends stepped back to watch as I talked to him. He started by asking if he could buy me a drink. I wasn't going to turn down a free drink, so I said yes. We waited until we got our drinks to start talking. "So what brings you here?" he asked. "Ah, it's my friend's birthday, and I'm just here to celebrate with her," I replied. "That's nice. How about I send over some drinks for all of them?" he offered. "All of them? There are 7 more people there." "It's all right. I'll make up all the money I spent here the next 2 hours, so no worries." "So you're rich? Ha, I guess you could say that. Of course, I'm not trying to brag or anything. No, It's a great thing to flaunt. Not a lot of people get to do that, and you aren't being a jerk about it. You're buying a bunch of strangers drinks because I told you it was one of their birthdays. What can I say? I have a particular weakness for pretty women. You're so weak you believe everything they say, even lies. Yes, of course. Although did you lie? He asked with a playful smile. No, it is one of their birthdays. But it is concerning that pretty women make you weak. You should get that checked, I joked. How about you help me with it? Maybe if I had a pretty woman by my side, I'd only have a weakness for one woman, Fred replied with a playful smile. It was a confidence boost to be called pretty by Fred, especially because he was so handsome. He looked like he could be on the cover of Vogue. I surprised myself by flirting back with him. I was usually quite introverted, so I don't know if it was the drink or just Fred's charm, but I felt comfortable being flirty. Eventually, my friends came to get me, thanking Fred for the drinks. Before I left, Fred and I exchanged numbers. From then on, we talked all the time. We started with texts, then moved on to calls whenever we had free time or something interesting to share. We also started meeting up more often. At first, we met in public places, but as time passed, we began hanging out at each other's homes. I was shocked when I saw Fred's house for the first time. It was like a mansion. Fred laughed and told me to get used to his wealth because it would soon be mine. Fred was very open about wanting to marry me. He told me countless times how comfortable he felt around me, and that just made me love him more. He was also completely okay with me having kids. When I told him about Bobby, he was genuinely upset for me. After that, he went above and beyond to show me how much he cared about me. Fred and Bobby were like night and day, and being with Fred made me realize why so many people didn't want me to be with Bobby. I was glad I got out of that relationship, but I hated how it ended. Fred helped me heal and move on from it, which I was incredibly grateful for. We only dated for a year before getting married. We had a destination wedding and flew out our closest friends and family. My kids were thrilled for me and constantly told me how much they loved Fred, which was a huge relief for me. Life from then on was smooth sailing. Fred eased all my worries and even helped with my kids' education, despite me insisting I could handle it. He showed me that he accepted all of us, not just me. He decorated my kids' rooms exactly how they wanted them before we even moved in together. Fred did everything Bobby didn't and more. It was a true turning point for my family, and that's how we grew into what we are today. From then on, Fred and I had a child of our own, but he never treated my kids differently. About a year after our marriage, my kids asked him to legally adopt them, which was another big moment for our family. After that, we became one big family. We did all the things families do, going out to eat, going on vacations, having fun together, you name it. My career was going well, and Fred's company was thriving too. There wasn't a single thing wrong in my life. Before I knew it, 7 years had gone by. Then, one day, out of the blue, I got a call from an unknown number. Hello, I answered. Look who it is. It's Macy. Who is this? Don't you recognize me? I don't think you remember much anyway. It's Bobby here. How are you doing? The voice said. Bobby? What the heck? How did you even get my number? I asked, surprised. I forgot how whiny you are. I just happened to come across your number and thought I'd give you a call to see how you've been. Bobby replied. How has life been treating you since? He asked. Since you left me? Oh, come on, Macy. We were having way too much trouble, and both you and I know that we would have gotten divorced anyway. So you just chose to leave without saying a word. Well, I wanted to avoid all the emotional drama, so I did what I had to do, Bobby said. You are unbelievable. A pretty rich piece of work. Do you even realize the harm you caused me? Leaving was the best thing that ever happened to me. Are you serious right now? Yes, I married a wealthy woman with kids, but I was willing to overlook it because of her money. And it paid off because she got me this amazing job that pays me so much. I'm living my dream. So you abandoned your own kids to take care of someone else's. You gotta do what you gotta do, right? Please never call me again. Goodbye. I was stunned by the sheer audacity of that man to call me just to brag about his new rich lifestyle. Part of me wanted to keep talking to him just to find out where he was, so I could give him a piece of my mind. But I was so overwhelmed with emotions that I could barely think straight. After I hung up on him, I felt hurt, not for myself, but for my kids. They grew up without a father who was too busy taking care of his new wife's children. We struggled, but what did he expect? We were just high school graduates when we had our first child. Where would we have gotten the money for ourselves? At the same time, I felt disgusted. He was the epitome of a sleazebag. He only cared about someone if they had something to offer him. I decided to block his number because I didn't want to deal with him anymore. That chapter of my life had been closed for long enough, and I never wanted it reopened. I told Fred about it later that night, and he was understandably upset but also glad that I blocked Bobby's number. We decided to move forward from that. About a week later, I received another call from an unknown number, and once again, it was Bobby. I was getting frustrated by his constant calls. He called to brag about his luxurious lifestyle, his new expensive car, and how well his kids were doing at school. I didn't bother being polite this time. I just hung up on him. But that didn't stop him. He kept calling every week after that, telling me about his extravagant purchases. I blocked him with every new number he used, but he kept finding ways to reach me. Eventually, I stopped answering his calls altogether because he was becoming a nuisance. It seemed like he enjoyed bothering me. One day, when I was stressed at work, Bobby called me again. "Oh, hey, Macy," he said. "Can't you just leave me alone?" I snapped. "Oh, come on. I'm just trying to make up for lost time," he replied casually. "Well, you're 20 years too late. The kids don't care about you, and neither do I. Leave me alone," I said firmly. "You know you love it, Macy," he replied. "I really don't. I don't want to hear anything about you or your new good life." "Why? Are you jealous? Are you jealous I'm living the life that you'll never be able to live?" he taunted. "I can assure you I'm not." "Well, here's something that will definitely make you jealous. I just got a promotion. I don't give a crap." "You know you're jealous. I just got a promotion at Digidom, one of the finest media companies." "I'm going to hang up," I said, ending the call. I was furious and annoyed after the call, but something Bobby said kept nagging at me. I was too angry to think about it at the moment, so I pushed it aside. When I got back home, I couldn't shake the feeling, and then it hit me. Bobby mentioned working for Digidom, one of the top media companies in our city, and it struck a chord because Fred is the CEO and founder of that company, my husband. I couldn't believe how perfectly the universe had aligned. This meant I finally had a way to teach Bobby a lesson, not just for bothering me, but also for abandoning his children. I waited eagerly for Fred to come home, bubbling with excitement to tell him about my day. "Did something happen? Why do you seem so hyper?" Fred asked when he saw me. "Nothing happened per se, but I did find out something big," I said, unable to contain myself. "Oh, what is it?" he asked, intrigued. Bobby called again. "That sick guy. If I could get my hands on him," Fred started, his anger evident. "That's the thing, he might be closer than we thought," I interrupted. "Huh? What do you mean?" "Well, today he called me to brag about his big promotion at work, and guess where he works?" I said, a grin spreading across my face. "You mean to tell me that he works at my company?" Fred exclaimed, disbelief evident in his voice. "Yeah." At first, I couldn't help but think his company name sounded really familiar, and then it hit me. I explained. "Did you really not remember the company I created?" Fred teased. "Listen, I was way too angry to remember my own name. Cut me some slack," I joked back. I'm kidding. Anyways, do you want me to fire him?" Fred asked. "Absolutely. But before you do, I was wondering if there was any way to humiliate him," I said. "Definitely. Bold of you to think that I wasn't going to fire him in the worst way possible for him," Fred chuckled. With that, we began planning our revenge. We decided to wait a few more weeks before executing our plan to fire him. We would record his calls to me and play them in front of everyone at a big company event in 2 months, which Bobby would be in charge of. There would be several big names present, and we would tarnish his reputation. Over the next few weeks, I answered Bobby's calls calmly, knowing I had the upper hand. I listened to him boast about his wealth and my lack of it, all while recording every conversation. These recordings would come back to haunt him, and I couldn't wait. At the end of the 2 months, the event arrived. Normally, I avoided big crowds, but this time, I wanted to see Bobby's downfall while I sat on the throne. Fred bought me a stunning expensive dress for the occasion. I stayed in the car until Fred called me, not wanting Bobby to see me and run. I entered when Fred introduced me during his speech. As I walked on stage, Bobby's face dropped. I smirked as I passed him, watching him sweat. Fred praised me and spoke about our wonderful years together, raising my kids. With every word of praise, Bobby seemed to sweat more. I beamed with pride as the crowd applauded me. Then Fred's speech took a surprising turn. He spoke about how I had been harassed by my ex-husband recently, detailing how he had abandoned me and our kids to start a new family with someone wealthy. But fate had a twist in store because my ex-husband worked for Fred's company. The crowd murmured in shock, speculating about who my ex could be. Fred quieted them down, promising to reveal the identity. He pointed at Bobby, declaring him to be my ex-husband. The crowd buzzed with disbelief. Bobby looked like he might faint, realizing there was no way out. Fred wasn't finished, he had proof. He played the recordings of Bobby's calls to me, exposing his behavior. Bobby froze as the truth unfolded. Fred announced that due to Bobby's actions, he was fired. The crowd cheered as Fred and I left the stage. Bobby was escorted out, and the event continued smoothly. Revenge was served, and it tasted sweeter than anything else. "You're quite bold to call me again after last night," I answered the unknown caller. "You tricked me," the voice on the other end exclaimed. "What do you mean?" I asked innocently. You absolute witch. Don't play dumb with me. How could you not tell me that you were married again, and to my boss no less?" "As I've told you before, Bobby, I simply didn't care about you," I replied calmly. "I know that, but the least you could have done was inform me," he retorted. "So you would only stop harassing me if you knew who my husband was? And if my husband wasn't your boss, you would have continued." I countered. "Don't twist my words," Bobby protested. "I'm not twisting anything. And if we're talking about decency, Bobby, let's talk about you abandoning your family. If you could do that, I can certainly do this. Enjoy your new life, and I hope you find a new job," I said firmly. "I don't have a family anymore. My wife left me because of yesterday, and she took the kids. And it's all because of you," Bobby lamented. "I didn't do anything. You did this to yourself. Goodbye, Bobby, and good luck," I replied, ending the call. It felt empowering to finally stand up to Bobby and know that I had caused him to lose everything. I hope he learns never to mess with me or my family again. Fred and I continue to thrive together, and our kids have grown into wonderful adults. My life is peaceful once again, and I no longer stress about Bobby's calls. I finally feel vindicated and free. Thank you for listening to my story. I'm Harley. I'm 34 years old, and I'm a bold and self-reliant woman. Let me tell you about the crazy journey of my relationship with my husband, Dominic. Get ready, because it's going to be a wild ride. Dominic and I had our ups and downs, like most couples. Even though I loved him a lot, there was one big problem. His mom, Charlotte. She was always critical of me. No matter what I did, she never seemed happy. Whenever we had family gatherings, Charlotte would make mean comments about my cooking. She acted like she was a fancy chef and I couldn't cook at all. She complained about the taste, how things looked, and say I wasn't as good as her. It felt like she was trying to prove that I wasn't good enough for her son. But it wasn't just about my cooking. Charlotte had a talent for making me feel small in other ways too. Once, at a dinner party, I proudly told everyone about a big promotion I got at work, hoping for a pat on the back. Instead, she just brushed it off like it was no big deal, saying it wasn't as good as what her friends' kids had achieved. It made me feel invisible, like she didn't care about my success. And our wedding? It should have been a happy day, but Charlotte made it her mission to criticize everything, from where we had it to what colors we used. Nothing was good enough for her. She'd whisper her disapproval to anyone who'd listen, ruining what should have been the best day of my life. You'd think my husband, Dominic, would stand up for me, right? Well, not quite. Bless him, he had this weird blind spot when it came to his mom. He couldn't see how she treated me, made me feel small, and acted like I didn't matter. It hurt a lot. And his dad, Caleb, was the only one who seemed to get it and call her out. But I wish Dominic would be the one to stand up for me. After all, I was his wife, his partner, and I deserved his support no matter what. But every time, I felt let down. Dominic stayed quiet, letting his mom's words hurt me over and over again. It was like being cut by tiny knives, again and again. I wanted his love, but I also wanted him to stick up for me. It wasn't just about defending me from Charlotte's mean comments. It was about fighting for our relationship and showing me I was important. I hoped he'd see through his mom's tricks and put us first. but it seemed like he was stuck in the family drama, unable to break free. As time went on, I started to feel more and more frustrated. I felt like he didn't care about me or what I needed. It was like we were stuck in a bad cycle that we couldn't get out of. The beginning of the end came when Dominic said he had to go on yet another business trip, this time to Tampa for a week. Another trip? Seriously, Dominic? It's a really important meeting that couldn't wait, babe, he said. But you just got back from another one. Can't someone else do it? And why Tampa all of a sudden? I asked, surprised. He had only just come back from a different business trip, so this sudden one made me wonder. I tried to tell him how I felt, hoping he'd understand, but his answers didn't help much. But I let it go. I'll bake, even though I'm not sure about this. You know, sometimes things just come up unexpectedly in business, I said reluctantly. Yeah, it's just business, okay. Even though I had my doubts, I didn't push it too much, and off he went on this business trip. The first 3 days of Dominic's trip went by, and my suspicions got even stronger. I decided to FaceTime him, like I usually did when he was away, but he kept choosing audio calls instead. Hey, can we do a video chat tonight? Sorry, the hotel Wi-Fi isn't great, so audio calls are better for now. But everything's fine, don't worry. Wi-Fi problems, it seemed too convenient, didn't it? Babe, don't worry about it, Dominic reassured me. But I couldn't help but worry. Sometimes I'd hear a woman's voice in the background, and it made my doubts grow stronger, making me even more uneasy. I felt like Dominic was hiding something, like there was more to this trip than he was letting on. The trust between us was starting to crack, leaving me with a sense of uncertainty that hung over our relationship. Despite my doubts, I stayed quiet and accepted his excuses for those 3 days. It was hard to believe. 3 whole days had gone by, and I still hadn't seen Dominic. Not only did he avoid video calls, but our audio calls kept getting shorter and shorter. I had to find out what was really going on. On the 4th day, I tried to FaceTime Dominic again, hoping to get some answers. But when the call connected, instead of seeing Dominic, it was Charlotte who answered. She was sitting in a beach chair with sunglasses on and a tan. I was shocked. Charlotte, what are you doing there? Where's Dominic? She smirked, looking pleased with herself. Oh, Harley dear, you didn't think he was on a business trip, did you? Honestly, I can't say he needed to go to Tampa to keep this from you, but I suppose that just shows how pushy you can be. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Dominic had lied to me, and his mother was there, enjoying herself while I was left in the dark. Anger started to bubble up inside me as I realized they had been deceiving me. So you're telling me you both planned this secret vacation without me? Well, yes, she admitted. Why? I demanded. Because I wanted to visit my hometown, and I wanted to do it with my son. Is that so wrong? Charlotte replied. Of course not. But why keep it a secret? Why exclude me? I pressed. Because this trip is just for me and my son, she explained. But I'm his wife. I should have been included. This could have been a chance for us to work out whatever issues you have with me, and I could really use a vacation too, I argued. Well, tough luck. You didn't get one. Sorry, not sorry, Charlotte retorted. I'm going to set aside your childish behavior for a moment to say this. Even if you wanted this special trip without me, it would have been okay. I'm an adult, you can tell me if I'm not invited to something. I can handle it. But here's the thing. We kept it a secret from you because we simply didn't want you to know. It's as simple as that. We didn't care if you wanted to come or if you would have been okay with us going alone. We just didn't want you to know. But your constant calls were annoying, so I decided to just tell you, Charlotte explained. Are you serious, Charlotte? What's gotten into you? Has all that sun fried your brain? I shot back. How dare you insult me like that? You're taking this too far. You're acting like such a drama queen, she retorted. I'm not being dramatic. I have every right to be upset, especially after years of putting up with your nonsense, I responded. Charlotte shrugged, pretending to be innocent. Oh, Harley dear, sometimes it's better not to know everything your husband does. It was just a little secret getaway, just for us, something special. You wouldn't understand the bond we have. A rush of emotions flooded through me, betrayal, anger, and sadness. It was obvious they had planned this together, leaving me out and feeling completely deceived. As I realized the extent of their deceit, I couldn't help but wonder what else they had lied about. How long had these secret trips been happening? Why were they so insistent on keeping me in the dark, And what else were they hiding from me? The trust I had in Dominic was falling apart, and I snapped out of my thoughts when I heard his voice getting closer. Mom, why did you answer the phone? What's going on? Dominic's voice sounded tense. It's time Holly knew the truth. It's been 4 days, his mother replied firmly. Dominic snatched the phone from his mother, his face going pale as he realized the mess he was in. He stared at the screen, knowing he was caught in a lie. Why did you lie about the business trip, Dominic? And the Wi-Fi was fine the past few days, wasn't it? I demanded. I didn't want you to be mad at me, he admitted. Well, of course I'm mad. I thought you were avoiding me. Is it strange that you want to spend time with your mom? Yeah, a bit. But Dominic, you haven't been standing up for me, and I've been feeling distant from you already. If you wanted mom-son time, you could have just said so. Even if I was upset about not being invited, it would have been better than feeling like this, I argued. Anger surged through me as Dominic tried to explain himself. It was clear he hadn't thought about how his actions would affect me. Dominic, I wouldn't have been upset if you had just been honest with me. It's not about the trip itself. It's about you keeping it a secret. That's what bothers me. I mean, I thought you were cheating on me, for crying out loud. What? No way, Dominic exclaimed. Yeah, well, when I heard women's voices in the background of your calls, I started to wonder, I said bitterly. I have a special bond with my mom. Sometimes we just need to get away, Dominic tried to explain. In Tampa of all places, you both hate Tampa. And what about Gertrude? Weren't we supposed to visit her? I questioned. So this secret was just between you two? What about your dad? Did he know? I pressed. I can't talk right now. I hope this trip was worth it, because when you come back, I'm not sure you'll still have a wife, I said firmly. Holly, please wait, Dominic pleaded. But I couldn't wait. I ended the call and ignored all of Dominic's attempts to reach me. I paced back and forth in my room, trying to make sense of it all. Why would he hide something so simple from me? One thing about me, when you lie about small things, I start to wonder what big things you're hiding. It was strange to think of Dominic spending time with his mom on this secret trip. Honestly, I would have preferred if he was cheating on me. I was frustrated with my distant and secretive husband and his difficult mother. I knew what I had to do. I needed to talk to someone who would understand. I picked up my phone and called my father-in-law, hoping he could offer some clarity and support. Hey, it's Holly. I need to talk to you about something important. I poured my heart out, sharing every detail of the deception that had tainted my marriage. Anger, sadness, and betrayal swirled inside me as I recounted Dominic's lies. From his fake business trip to his desperate attempts to keep me in the dark. His betrayal cut deep. But what hurt even more was Charlotte's involvement. I described how she seemed to enjoy keeping me ignorant, relishing the power she had over me. The weight of their deceit felt suffocating, and as I spoke, I could sense Caleb's shock and hurt in his responses. Caleb's voice turned serious, matching the gravity of my words. What? I had no idea about any of this. I'm so sorry you had to find out like this. As soon as I found out, I called you. Charlotte told me she was going to Tampa to visit her mother and repair their relationship. I believed her. Well, Dominic just confessed that they weren't planning to visit Gertrude at all. And Gertrude has no clue about any visit, I revealed. Caleb's shock and hurt were evident over the phone. It was becoming apparent that Charlotte had been weaving a web of lies, manipulating everyone involved. I can't believe Charlotte would do something like this. It's one thing to have disagreements, but to deceive her own family. It's unforgivable, Caleb said, his voice heavy with disappointment. They both need to learn a lesson, I agreed. That's a brilliant idea. I was seething with anger, ready to do anything to teach Dominic and Charlotte a lesson. After our call ended with words of encouragement and excitement for what was to come, I waited eagerly to hear back from Caleb about his mother-in-law's reaction. A couple of hours passed and Caleb delivered the good news. As Caleb described his conversation with Gertrude, the seriousness of the situation became even clearer. His voice shook with a mixture of anger and sadness. I told her everything, Harley. She was furious, devastated even. She couldn't believe her own daughter would deceive everyone like this, Caleb explained. She deserves to know the truth, Caleb. Charlotte has been treating us horribly for too long, I replied. Gertrude has decided to take action, Harley. She's planning to teach Charlotte a lesson she won't forget. She's fed up with Charlotte's behavior and wants to show her what real rudeness looks like. I hope you don't mind me asking, but what exactly is the issue between Charlotte and Gertrude? Well, Harley, I'm sure you'll find it ironic, but Charlotte always claimed her mother was very rude and cruel to her. They've had a rocky relationship since Charlotte ran away at 16, being in and out of touch for years. It's very toxic, but after talking to Gertrude for the past hour, I'm starting to think Charlotte was the problem all along. It's crazy. I've been married to Shaw for all these years, and you and Dom have only been married for 3, yet you've managed to uncover more family secrets in this short time. I should have been more curious. I should have stood up more. How could you have known, Caleb? Don't be hard on yourself, please. You were just being a good husband, trusting what your wife told you, and you stood up more than your son. That means something. Thanks, Harley, for everything. I'm glad I could help, even though it's unfortunate it came to this, I remarked. Yeah, I guess so, but I'm looking forward to Gertrude showing them how tough she can be, Caleb responded. The next day arrived and the fallout from our revelations began. Dominic, unable to grasp the seriousness of the situation, called me in frustration, his words filled with irritation. Holly, what did you do? What do you mean? Don't play dumb with me. Gertrude is here, and nobody else knows we're in town except you. She said she came because she heard we were here. I'm glad she knows the truth. Everyone deserves to know, after all your sneaking around. How could you do this, Harley? Dominic's voice was filled with frustration. In the background, I heard some commotion, likely from 2 female voices. One sounded much older, which I assumed was Gertrude unleashing her anger. Dominic, maybe it's time Charlotte faces the consequences of her actions. She needs to understand what it feels like to be deceived, I replied firmly. Suddenly, I heard Charlotte's voice. You ungrateful little rat. How dare you expose us like this? As I listened, I couldn't help but chuckle softly, though there was bitterness in my laughter. Before I could respond, I heard another voice, stern and authoritative. Don't you dare speak to that young lady like that. I've had enough of your insolence. You've been telling everyone how rude and nasty I was to you, huh? When all I did was care for you and help you out of trouble. You were such a problem child, lying about everything and being nasty to everyone. And I see that lifestyle has followed you into adulthood. We haven't seen or talked to each other since you left, and this is how you want to act. Do you think I'm rude and nasty? Just wait, I'll show you rude and nasty. I heard things breaking, like a glass or a vase, and it made me a bit fearful as the shouting continued. I couldn't imagine how scared Dominic must have been, but I realized that this was the consequence of his actions. He was an adult, responsible for his choices. I was done making excuses for them. They were getting what they deserved, and I was glad to hear it unfold. For the next few days, Dominic kept asking for my forgiveness because his grandmother was driving him crazy. Each time he called, I reminded him that this was his fault. Meanwhile, Charlotte and Gertrude continued arguing back and forth. I was surprised they didn't get kicked out of the hotel they were staying in. As their 7-day trip came to an end, Dominic revealed something even more shocking. Holly, please, you need to talk to Gertrude. I tried talking to Dad, but he's still upset with my mom and me, Dominic pleaded. Slow down, what's going on? You two were supposed to be coming back, right? I asked, trying to keep up. I thought you learned your lesson, I added. Well, Gertrude doesn't think so. She's planning to board the plane with us, Dominic explained. What? She wants to follow us home and make sure my mom starts acting like a respectable adult and not some crazed teenager, he continued. Wow, that's unexpected. Maybe next time you'll stand up for what's right and not go along with your mother's schemes. See you when you get here, I replied. Harley, I regret everything. Haven't you punished us enough? Please talk to Gertrude and tell her she doesn't have to come with us. Dominic pleaded desperately. I don't think so, sweetie. Who am I to argue with that woman? She's terrifying. I responded to Dominic's plea. How do you think we feel? He asked. Honestly, Dom, I don't care how you feel. You've been lying to me for God knows how long, and you never stood up for me when your mom treated me poorly. You're getting your karma. Don't be mad at me now. Have a safe flight. Well, as safe a flight as you came with these 2 ladies being together, I retorted firmly. As I hung up the phone, a sense of satisfaction washed over me. Finally, the tables had turned and I had stood up against the toxicity that had plagued our lives for too long. Gertrude, the unexpected ally, had unleashed her own brand of justice, and I couldn't help but feel a glimmer of excitement. Now I await their return, expecting stories from Gertrude, as I'm sure she continued to make their lives difficult on that flight. Revenge never tasted so sweet. The new year was supposed to be a fresh start, but this time it brought a big surprise. The doorbell rang, breaking the quiet of my cozy home. I thought it might be a neighbor or a delivery person, so I opened the door casually, but I felt like my heart sank when I saw who was there. My sister Claire, who I hadn't wanted to see, and my ex-husband Ethan. Claire had her usual smug smile, looking almost proud next to Ethan. Seeing Ethan was like reopening an old wound. He looked arrogant and pretended to feel sorry. It had been 3 years since I'd seen them, and here they were, acting like nothing had happened. "Why are you here?" I asked, my voice trembling with shock. Claire laughed annoyingly. "Oh, look at that, Ethan." She's speechless. "What's wrong, Anna? Not happy to see your dear sister and loving ex-husband?" Ethan leaned against the doorframe, glancing around the room. "Yeah, Anna, we just thought we'd drop by, see how things are without us." I clenched my fists, trying hard not to slam the door on them. "This isn't your place anymore, Ethan. And you, Claire, shouldn't be here either." But they just smirked, unfazed by my attempt to stand up to them. Then Ethan said something that felt like a punch in the gut. "You know, Anna, I regret ever being with you. What a waste of my best years." Claire joined in, pretending to sympathize. Poor Anna, always falling short, even in marriage. Their mean words hurt, but before I could respond, another voice interrupted us. "Who's there, Anna?" It was my dad, George, who I wasn't expecting until later. Claire and Ethan looked surprised to see him, and their smirks disappeared as they shifted uncomfortably. "Dad, you're home early," I said, feeling relieved. George looked at the scene with narrowed eyes. "CLA, Ethan, what are you doing here?" Their confidence vanished under George's stern gaze. There was a tense silence. Claire finally spoke up. We just wanted to wish Anna a happy new year." George was skeptical. "Really? After all this time, you suddenly remember family on New Year's?" His tone was cold, hinting at hidden anger and disappointment. Ethan tried to regain control. "We also have some news, but maybe now's not the time." I knew their visit wasn't just about New Year's greetings. Their sudden arrival, smirks, and insults were all too familiar. A cycle of lies and manipulation. But I wasn't the same person they left behind. As they left awkwardly, promising to come back another time, I closed the door, feeling both relieved and anxious. Their return meant trouble, and this time, I had to be ready. After Claire and Ethan left, the house felt eerily quiet. My dad, George, sat opposite me, his face creased with worry. "Anna, what was that about? Why are they back?" I sighed, feeling the weight of old memories. "I'm not sure, Dad, but with Claire and Ethan, there's always a motive." George nodded grimly. "I remember how it all ended, how they hurt you. You owe them nothing, Anna." His support was comforting, but there was a part of the story he didn't fully grasp. The depth of Claire's manipulation. It dated back to our childhood, a time that should have been carefree but was overshadowed by Claire's selfishness. "Dad, remember my 10th birthday? Grandma's porcelain doll." I asked, my voice tinged with sadness. George's face softened. "Of course, you cherished that doll." I nodded, the memory vivid. "Claire broke it on purpose, then blamed me. She cried to Mom, saying it was an accident caused by me." George looked surprised. "I never knew that. Your mother always thought it was an accident." "That was just the start," I said, feeling the pain of old memories. "Claire always acted innocent, and I got blamed. She knew how to trick everyone around her." I saw regret in George's eyes, realizing what he hadn't seen before. "I'm sorry, Anna. I should have seen it." "It's not your fault," Dad said, his voice filled with regret. "We were all fooled by Claire," I replied, taking a deep breath. "Even with Ethan, she played us both. They deserve each other." George reached for my hand, offering comfort. "What matters is you're away from their drama now. Don't let them pull you back in." I nodded, trying to force a smile. Talking with Dad reminded me that the past wasn't forgotten. Claire and Ethan's visit wasn't just casual. It hinted at more trouble ahead. That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories of Claire's schemes, how she always seemed better than me in our parents' eyes, how she effortlessly won Ethan over. It all haunted me. Her return meant trouble, and I felt a growing sense of dread. But amid the chaos in my mind, I started to feel determined. I wouldn't be a victim again. I'd confront Claire and Ethan. Whatever they were planning, I was ready to fight back. In the days after Claire and Ethan's visit, their words and smirks kept replaying in my mind. I threw myself into work, hoping to distract myself, but the past wouldn't let go. Remembering my marriage to Ethan, once filled with love, now felt like walking on thorns. It all started wonderfully. Ethan was charming, attentive, everything I thought I wanted. We were happy, or so I thought. But then things changed. Late nights, excuses, and avoiding my questions. I trusted him, ignoring my doubts and gut feelings. Then, one day, everything became clear. I came home early from a trip, excited to surprise Ethan. But I was the one surprised. I found Ethan and Claire together, laughing in our living room. It was a moment that shattered my world. The confrontation was a blur of tears, accusations, and painful truths. Claire showed no remorse, simply shrugging off my pain. You were always too focused on work, Anna. Ethan needed someone, and I was there. It's not our fault he lost interest in you. Ethan's words were just as hurtful. I thought I loved you, Anna, but Claire is different, more exciting. We were never right for each other. Their betrayal cut me deeply, shattering my heart and trust. The divorce was swift, with Ethan and Claire flaunting their relationship. I was left to piece together my shattered life, feeling foolish and betrayed. Sitting in my office, memories swirled, igniting anger within me. How dare they come back after what they did? How dare they disrupt my peace? But it wasn't just anger. It was a burning need for justice. I wanted them to feel a fraction of the pain they caused. Revenge, once repulsive, now seemed like the only way to close this chapter. I've decided. I'll confront them, demand answers, but I won't be the heartbroken wife this time. I'll be strong. They underestimated me once. They won't again. I dialed Ethan's number, my voice steady, my resolve unshakable. Ethan, we need to talk. Meet me at the cafe on 5th Street tomorrow at noon. His surprise stammer was a small victory. Sure, Anna. Tomorrow, he replied before the call ended. For the first time in days, I felt in control. The game had begun, and this time I was playing to win. The next day, the cafe was bustling. I spotted Ethan at a corner table, looking tense. His attempted smile didn't reach his eyes. Anna, thanks for coming. I wasn't sure you want to see me, he said, sounding unsure. I don't, I replied sharply, sitting across from him. But I need answers. Why are you and Claire back in my life? Ethan squirmed. Things haven't been great for us after we left. We've had some tough times. I felt a bitter satisfaction seeing him uneasy. Tough times? You expect sympathy from me? No, of course not, he stammered. It's just that Claire is pregnant. We thought it's time to mend fences, for the sake of family. His words hit me hard. Claire pregnant? I felt a twinge of hurt, but skepticism took over. And you expect me to? What? Forgive you just like that? I asked, my voice filled with disbelief. It's not just that, Anna, Ethan said, avoiding my gaze. There's the matter of your father's estate. So that was it, the real reason behind their sudden return. It wasn't remorse or reconciliation. It was greed. You have some nerve, Ethan. You cheat, you leave, and now you come back for money. I felt my anger boiling over, my voice rising in the crowded cafe. People can change, Anna. We've been through a lot. We just want a chance to start over, to be a family, he pleaded. A family built on lies and deceit. I shot back, my heart pounding with anger. Just then, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Claire. We need to talk. Alone. My place. Tonight. I glanced at Ethan, my mind made up. Tell Claire I'll see her tonight. But understand, Ethan, this isn't a family reunion. This is me settling the score. Ethan looked taken aback as I stood to leave. I felt a strange sense of power. I'd been their victim for too long. But now, things were changing. I walked out, leaving Ethan behind, my mind racing. Tonight's meeting with Claire wouldn't just be a talk. It would be the start of my revenge, a chance to reclaim my dignity and make them regret crossing me. Leaving Ethan behind at the cafe left me with a whirlwind of emotions. Anger, betrayal, and a newfound determination. Driving home, my mind buzzed with plans for confronting Claire later. I needed to brace myself against her manipulative ways. As evening approached, I stood in front of my mirror, mentally preparing. I saw a different woman from the one who once fell for Ethan or got overshadowed by Claire. Tonight, I was ready to face my past head-on. Claire's house was a sharp contrast to mine. Flashy, extravagant, a symbol of her and Ethan's shallow values. I knocked on the door, my heart racing but my resolve strong. When Claire opened it, she looked as poised and arrogant as ever. "Anna, come in. I'm glad you could make it." Her tone dripped with condescension, as if inviting me in was some kind of favor. Stepping inside, I took in the extravagant decor. "So Claire, why am I here? What do you want from me?" I asked, cutting to the chase. Claire led me to the living room, her movements graceful yet calculated. "I wanted to talk to you, sister to sister. It's been too long, and with the baby coming, I thought it's time we bury the hatchet." I almost laughed at her audacity. Bury the hatchet? After you stole my husband and now come back for my father's inheritance? Claire's expression hardened briefly before she composed herself. "Anna, let's be practical. Ethan and I need financial stability for our child. Your father's estate can help with that." Her greed was clear. "You expect me to just hand over what's rightfully mine after everything you've done." "It's not just about the money, Anna," Claire said, falsely sincere. "It's about family. We're still sisters, after all." I stared at her in disbelief. "You lost the right to call me sister when you betrayed me." There was a heavy silence between us, tension thick in the air. Then Claire's mask slipped, revealing her true nature. "Fine. If you're going to be selfish, let's talk legalities. Dad's will favors the first grandchild. My baby will secure the inheritance for Ethan and me." Her words hit me hard. This was her plan, to use her pregnancy to manipulate our father's will in her favor. "You're unbelievable, Claire. You think you can manipulate everyone to get what you want?" "Not this time. I won't let you," I said firmly. Claire smirked, her eyes cold and calculating. "We'll see, Anna. We'll see how long you can keep up this act," she sneered. I turned to leave, my mind spinning. Driving away, a plan began to form. Claire and Ethan were playing a dangerous game, but now I knew the rules. It was time for them to realize I wasn't just a pawn in their twisted game. The days after my confrontation with Claire were filled with intense preparation for the looming legal battle over my father's estate. I sought out legal advice, determined to safeguard what was rightfully mine and my father's legacy from Claire and Ethan's greed. As I delved into the legal details, shocking news reached me. Ethan's business, once touted with confidence, had collapsed. They were drowning in debt, unable to sustain their lavish lifestyle. This revelation shed light on their sudden return and their desperation for the inheritance. Meeting with my lawyer, Miss Harper, we discussed our strategy. "They're financially and legally trapped," she noted, examining the documents. "Your sister's claim about the will doesn't hold up legally. We can challenge it." Miss Harper's confidence was reassuring, but I knew Claire and Ethan wouldn't give up easily. They were like cornered animals, unpredictable and dangerous. My resolve was tested sooner than I anticipated. One evening, returning home from work, I found Claire waiting on my doorstep, her expression a mix of defiance and desperation. "Anna, we need to talk," she said, her voice shaky. "I have nothing to say to you, Claire. This matter is with the lawyers now," I replied, trying to pass by her. She stepped forward, blocking my path. "Please, Anna. I'm not pregnant. It was a lie, a plan Ethan and I made to influence Dad's will." Her confession, though shocking, didn't surprise me. It was just another deceit in their long list. "So you've been lying all this time. What now, Claire? Ready to give up?" I asked coldly. Claire's eyes filled with tears, but they didn't sway me. "I don't know what to do. Ethan's business is ruined. We're losing everything. I need your help, Anna." Her plea for help, after all they'd done, was almost laughable. "You want my help after everything you've done? You're delusional," I said, pulling away from her. "The sister I knew died when you betrayed me. You made your choice, Claire. Live with it." Leaving Claire alone, I entered my house, closing the door on her and our past. It felt liberating. I was free from our toxic relationship. That night, in the quiet of my living room, I realized this was more than an inheritance battle. It was about my liberation, closing the chapter on Claire and Ethan's treachery and moving on. The following weeks were a whirlwind of legal battles. Claire and Ethan's desperation grew as their financial troubles mounted, Despite it all, I remained strong, with Miss Harper's help and my newfound resolve. The day of the court hearing arrived, the atmosphere tense and charged. The courtroom was cold, contrasting sharply with the simmering emotions within. Ethan and Claire sat together, trying to maintain a facade of unity, but their strained appearances betrayed their true feelings. As the proceedings began, Miss Harper skillfully dismantled each of their arguments. Claire's lie about her pregnancy was exposed, further weakening their case. I watched Claire as the reality sank in. The confident, manipulative sister I once knew was gone, replaced by someone consumed by the consequences of her actions. During a recess, Claire approached me, desperation in her eyes. "Anna, please. I know I don't deserve your mercy, but we're ruined. We have nothing." Her words, once persuasive, now had no effect on me. "You brought this upon yourselves, Claire. You chose greed and deceit, and now you must face the consequences." The final judgment was a clear win for me. The judge ruled in my favor, ensuring that the inheritance rightfully stayed with me. Claire and Ethan left the courtroom defeated, their schemes crumbling. But as I walked out, a sense of closure washed over me. This wasn't just a legal win. It was a personal victory over my past demons. Claire and Ethan's downfall was the justice they deserved. But for me, it marked a new beginning, free from the pain they caused. In the days that followed, I focused on rebuilding my life, leaving behind the shadows of Claire and Ethan. The scar they left would always be a part of me, but it no longer controlled me. I had become stronger, more resilient, and had a better understanding of myself and my values. As I sat in my garden one evening, watching the sunset, I understood that real victory wasn't in revenge or the pain of those who hurt me. It was in the peace and inner strength I discovered, the power to move on and embrace new beginnings. Hey, I'm Clara, and I want to tell you about a funny thing my husband's family tried to do. Tyler and I have been together for a long time. We met in college and instantly became best friends. His happy laugh and kind heart made me fall in love with him. We had a great relationship filled with dreams and memories, but Tyler's family had a weird tradition of playing jokes on each other. At first, I thought it was fun, but their jokes were mean and hurtful, not just harmless fun. Instead of making people laugh, they often made them feel embarrassed. I felt uneasy seeing how Tyler's family hurt each other with their unkind jokes. I didn't want to be the target of their mean humor. The first time I met them, they played a really embarrassing prank on me. Tyler's family had picnics every few months where everyone got together. Tyler thought it would be a good time for me to meet them. I was nervous but excited because I really wanted them to like me. At first, everything seemed fun. But then Tyler's dad, Kenneth, pretended to spill his drink on me. It looked like an accident, but it made a mess, so I had to change my clothes. Tyler's mom, Sharon, offered me clothes from their car, but when I opened the bag she gave me, instead of regular clothes, there was a big clown costume inside. I couldn't believe it. They planned to embarrass me all along. I felt shocked, hurt, and really embarrassed. I couldn't imagine walking around in a clown costume. How could they do something so mean just for a laugh? I reluctantly put on the big clown costume, feeling really exposed and embarrassed. As I walked back to where the picnic was, Tyler's family started laughing loudly. Their laughter made me feel even worse, especially with other people in the park staring and whispering. It was tough to handle their teasing, especially because I had hoped they would like me. Instead, they seemed to enjoy making fun of me. I felt really sad and angry, wondering why they would want to hurt me like that. It was so embarrassing, and I felt really foolish. I felt a mix of emotions, from shock to embarrassment to anger. Tyler saw how upset I was and got really mad at his family. "What were you thinking? How could you do this to Clara? I specifically told you not to play pranks on her until she's comfortable with it." "Oh, come on, Tyler, it was just a joke. We didn't mean any harm. This is just how we are." "Harm? Look at her, she's embarrassed. I know we're okay with these pranks, but she's not, and you should have respected that. It's the one thing I asked of you." "Tyler, relax. It was just a harmless costume. We didn't mean to upset her so much." "Just a silly costume? Don't you see how much she's hurting? Mom, you know how much Clara means to me. I won't stand for this." "Tyler, we didn't think it would upset her so much. We're sorry." "Sorry isn't good enough. You broke your promise. If this happens again, I'm serious, I'll cut ties with both of you. I won't let anyone treat Clara like this." "Tyler, please, we didn't mean to hurt her. We'll make sure it never happens again." "I hope you mean it. I won't tolerate anyone disrespecting the person I love. I expect better from both of you. After the incident, Tyler apologized to me profusely for his family's actions. It was a big moment for us and showed me that our relationship was more important than their strange jokes. His kindness and understanding really helped me feel better. Sadly, that incident made things difficult with my in-laws. Kenneth and Sharon, my mother and father-in-law, kept making little mean comments about me, calling me names like wasp or party pooper. At first it really hurt, but I learned to ignore them and focus on my relationship with Tyler. A few months later, Tyler proposed to me and we decided to get married. The wedding was amazing and we were both so happy to start our life together. Tyler's parents, Kenneth and Sharon, surprised us with an invitation to dinner at one of my favorite fancy restaurants. They said it was to welcome me into their family. At first, I wasn't sure if I should go. Kenneth noticed I was unsure and texted me an apology for how they treated me before. He promised the dinner was a way to show they accepted me. I reluctantly agreed to go, but I still felt like something wasn't right. I knew them well enough to suspect they had other reasons for inviting me. Luckily, I had a plan. The restaurant they picked was owned by my friend Connor. Connor and I shared a special bond that was more than just friendship. He was like a brother to me, always there when I needed him. We grew up together in the same town and became best friends in high school. Even though we lost touch during college, we reconnected a couple of years ago. Our friendship grew stronger, and I was overjoyed to see him get married. Connor was someone I could always count on. He was kind and caring, making me feel safe and understood. We laughed together, comforted each other, and celebrated together. Connor supported me through thick and thin, offering advice and a listening ear. He became a big part of my life, even making me the godmother to his first child. He wasn't just a friend, he was like family to me. Hey Connor, can we talk? Of course, what's on your mind? It's about my in-laws. You remember them, right? Yeah, I met them before. What's going on? Well, they're planning a party for me at your restaurant, but here's the thing. They love playing humiliating pranks on people. The first time I met them, they embarrassed me big time. Really? That's not cool at all. I'm sorry you had to go through that. Thanks, it was awful. But since then, Tyler threatened them, and they haven't tried anything on me again. But I'm worried they might pull something at this party. Don't worry, I've got your back. If they try anything funny, I'll be ready with a backup plan to save you from any embarrassment. Wow, thanks a bunch. I knew I could rely on you. Having someone support me like this really means a lot. Absolutely, you're like family to us. We won't let anyone make you feel bad. Just believe in me and we'll make sure you have a blast at the party. I'm really grateful for that. You're awesome. Haha, make sure to remind my kids that I'm awesome when they're older. Oh, stop it. I need some time to decide. After talking with Connor, I suddenly felt much better. I started to look forward to the party instead of dreading it. Connor's help made me feel more confident, like I had someone on my side. A few days before the party, I called Sharon to make sure everything was set for our reservation at the restaurant. Hi Sharon, I just wanted to chat about the party at the restaurant. I wanted to remind you how important it is to have the reservations right. Don't worry, Clara. I've got it all under control. You don't need to stress about it. I understand you're busy getting ready for the party, but the restaurant has rules we need to follow, and I want to ensure everything goes smoothly. Are you suggesting I can't handle it? I've planned many events before, you know. No, that's not what I meant at all. I just want to prevent any problems and ensure everything goes perfectly. Believe me, Clara, I've sorted out the reservations and everything will be fine. You can trust me. I felt both relieved and a bit worried. Even though Sharon said everything was fine, I couldn't shake off my doubts. I really hoped she had handled the reservations well and that the party would go smoothly. On the day of the party, Tyler and I walked into the restaurant. The receptionist greeted us warmly. We were familiar faces here because we visited Connor's restaurant often. A waiter led us to our table, but when we got there, something seemed wrong. There was a seat missing. Panic rushed through me as I asked about my seat, but Tyler's family burst into laughter instead of answering. Tyler, clearly angry with his family, confronted them. I can't believe you guys. This is totally uncalled for. You're aware of the restaurant's rules, yet you intentionally pulled that prank. It's not funny when it hurts someone. Oh, come on, Tyler. Don't be so serious. It was just a harmless joke. No, Dad, it wasn't harmless. It's embarrassing and not okay. You promised you wouldn't do anything like this again. Well, maybe now it'll be a real family dinner. I don't see why we have to include someone who can't take a joke in our family. Mom, that's not fair. Clara is my wife, and I won't tolerate anyone disrespecting her. How are you going to make this right? I couldn't believe they were brushing off my feelings so easily, calling it just a joke. It hurt to think they didn't understand how their actions affected me and didn't fully support our relationship. I really wanted them to understand and accept us, but their words just made me feel more hurt and let down. Right when things were getting tense, Connor walked in. Oh, look who's here. Hey, Clara, it's so good to see you. How have you been? Oh my goodness, hi Connor. It's been a while. I'm doing all right, thank you. Tyler's family organized a party for me to welcome me into their family. That's fantastic. By the way, everyone, I'm Connor, the owner of this place. Let's kick off this celebration. Wait a minute, though, there seems to be a seat missing at this table. What's going on? Oh, that's their little prank on me. They like playing jokes. I know you're strict about seating, but is there any chance you could make an exception for me? Sorry, Clara, I can't do that. If I made an exception for you, I'd have to do it for everyone. But don't worry, I've got a solution. We have an empty seat in our VIP lounge. How about you and Tyler spend the evening there? You'll have a great view and a comfy spot. Why does she get special treatment? This was meant to be a joke. There's no need for all this fuss. Well, it's important to ensure our guests feel welcome and valued, and I believe it's crucial to respect everyone's feelings. Anyway, Clara, your meal and all your drinks tonight are on the house. Enjoy your evening. Thank you so much, Connor. In that moment, my appreciation for Connor was boundless. Having him there brought a sense of peace and security. He led us to the VIP area, shielding us from the chaos caused by Tyler's family. They protested loudly, but Connor made sure we received special treatment. He simply signaled to one of the wait staff to take care of their table, and they quieted down immediately. I thanked Connor profusely for standing up for me and preventing me from feeling even more embarrassed. Tyler's support meant the world to me. His actions truly revealed his character and his commitment to keeping me safe. Despite his family's teasing, he stood by me, prioritizing our well-being above all else. It demonstrated the depth of his love and the strength of our bond. Sitting in the VIP area surrounded by security and support, I felt immensely grateful for both Connor and Tyler. Their unwavering presence reassured me that I wasn't facing this journey alone. As Tyler and I ordered our meal and drinks, we started to relax and enjoy the evening. However, the night had more surprises in store for us. Hey guys, where would you like us to sit? We're all here for Clara's party, right? I don't think that's a good idea. We're good on our own. Well, what if we apologize? We're family and family shouldn't treat each other like this. Yeah, we want to make things right. Can't we all just move on from this? Are you serious? You didn't want her in the family before, and now suddenly you do. Or is it because you want to sit in a fancier place and get a free meal? You guys are a joke. Leave us alone. Tyler, we're really sorry. We didn't mean it like that. We were just messing around. Messing around? It didn't feel like a joke when you embarrassed me. Your actions spoke louder than words. Enough. We don't want to hear it. Just go. Tyler, please no. Mom, it's time you both understand the consequences of your actions. Leave now. Connor, sensing the tension, stepped in and politely asked Kenneth and Sharon to leave our table. When they refused, he warned them of involving the authorities. Finally, they begrudgingly walked back to their table. However, Connor followed them and requested them to leave his restaurant, citing complaints from other customers about their disruptive behavior. With no other choice, they left, their heads hung low in embarrassment as everyone in the restaurant witnessed their humiliating departure. That night, Tyler and I had a wonderful time. We laughed, ate, and enjoyed drinks with Connor, celebrating our victory over Tyler's family's failed prank. After that night, Tyler's family bombarded us with angry texts, blaming us for overreacting and causing a scene. Their words hurt, worsening the strain between us. It felt like the aftermath of a storm, with no calm in sight. Instead of engaging with their negativity, we decided to take a stand. We realized we didn't need their toxicity in our lives, so we blocked them, putting an end to their hurtful words and actions. Cutting ties with Tyler's family was necessary for our emotional well-being. We refused to subject ourselves to their constant ridicule and cruelty. It was a freeing choice that allowed us to focus on our love and supportive relationships. Life went on, and Tyler and I flourished in our love and unity. Our bond grew stronger, and we created our own loving family free from his parents' toxicity. Thanks for sticking with me through this roller coaster story. Remember, the sweetest victories often come from unexpected allies. Don't let anyone's cruel pranks dampen your spirit. Stay true to yourself, and you'll always come out on top. Why won't you talk to me? I asked. I've decided not to talk to people I don't know. I understand. I'll go away. Living with my husband's parents, they completely ignored me. I thought my mother-in-law might ignore me, but I never expected my father-in-law to treat me the same way. There was a reason why they changed. It was because my sister-in-law, who didn't like me, came back home. Since she returned, our peaceful life together turned upside down. Don't regret it, okay? You think I'll regret leaving? Think again, meanie. I packed my things and left my in-laws' house. Just 3 days after I left, there was chaos in their home. I met my husband at work. He worked in sales and often came to my office, and I was his main contact. As we spent more time together in meetings, I started to like him. He was caring and kind, tall, and not exactly what you'd call handsome, but he had a charming personality. He was well liked, but for some reason, he said he liked me, and we started dating. When we talked, he told me he grew up in a normal family with parents and a sister. I lost my parents when I was young and grew up in an orphanage. It was a hard thing for me, but when we started dating, I told him about my past. He said, "That sounds tough, but don't worry, I'll always be here for you." Not long after, he asked me to marry him. He always wanted our relationship to lead to marriage and quickly introduced me to his parents. When I told them about growing up in the orphanage, they listened carefully and reassured me it wouldn't affect our marriage. It made me really happy. They even said that my background didn't matter in becoming their daughter-in-law, which made me feel really good. But my sister-in-law, who was very close to her brother, seemed surprised, asking, "You grew up in an orphanage?" My husband had to scold her. Looking back, she probably didn't like me from the start. I didn't think much of it then, just assuming we were still getting to know each other. Before we got married, my husband and I talked about moving in with his parents. We thought about it seriously, but I decided to keep my job. My husband was going to be transferred soon, and although I considered quitting to move with him, my career was going well, and I had just been given more responsibilities at work. We discussed it and agreed he would move alone. After our wedding, I wanted to enjoy being newlyweds for a while. I even thought about visiting my husband during long weekends to have a May vacation together. Moving in with my in-laws right after getting married seemed a bit overwhelming, but my husband probably felt more comfortable living with them. Also, he might have wanted us to live together to ease his mom's worries. Since I lost my parents when I was young, I always wished for a family, so living with them didn't seem entirely bad. Besides, my in-laws had always been nice to me, and I grew to like them. It was tough juggling work and my role as a daughter-in-law, but having a family made me happy and complete. One day, my father-in-law came to me with a surprising request. It was the beginning of some trouble in our seemingly happy living arrangement. It happened when my usually anxious mother-in-law, who often acted bossy towards my father-in-law, was out shopping. I was getting ready to do some cleaning on my day off when my father-in-law asked to talk to me. "What's up?" "Well, I don't want my wife to find out, but I need to take time off from work." "Time off?" I asked, surprised. He explained that he'd been having problems with his boss and coworkers, and his health had gotten so bad that he had no choice but to take a break. My mother-in-law is a nice person, but she's always anxious and a bit overworried. Living with them, I notice how she tends to fret a lot, and my father-in-law walked on eggshells around her to avoid upsetting her. He had always been on the thin side, but lately I realized he seemed to have lost some weight. It would have been nice if my mother-in-law genuinely cared about my father-in-law's weight loss. But when he took a sick day because of a cold before, she said, "A cold? Everyone else at work is climbing the career ladder. You're always taking days off for health reasons. That's why you're not getting promoted." Instead of being concerned, she tended to criticize him. He probably tried his best to keep going, no matter how bad he felt. But his health got worse, and he secretly took time off to go to the hospital. He was struggling both mentally and physically. With him leaving work early, often being late, and calling in sick, there was talk about him needing to take a break from work. but he didn't want to upset my mother-in-law at any cost. If he suggested taking time off, she'd likely get really angry. Also, my father-in-law didn't earn much and he relied on extra pay from working overtime. Taking time off would mean a significant drop in income. If he told my husband, he might tell my mother-in-law, so he came to me, asking if I could help with the bills. If I mentioned taking a break, she might even leave me, he said. Hearing that hurt, I was grateful to my in-laws who had accepted me warmly, regardless of my past in an orphanage. Wanting to support him, I decided to help him out during this tough time. Okay, I'll send you money every month. Use it for expenses. I'm really sorry. I'll try to get better soon and go back to work. Thank you so much. After that, my father-in-law continued to pretend to go to work while I sent money to his bank account for living expenses. My mother-in-law wasn't very thorough with checking her bank statements, so she didn't notice my transfers. He'd act like he was going to work but instead went to a mental health clinic or went for walks in the peaceful mountains. Over time, he started looking better. I thought he might go back to work soon, but then something unexpected happened. After a fight with her husband, my sister-in-law went back to her parents' home. There's nothing like being back home. I thought I'd lose my mind if I stayed with that stupid husband of mine. I'll be here for a while. Can you make meals for me too? I knew from the start that my sister-in-law didn't like me. At our first family meeting, my husband was upset because she clearly showed her disapproval. During our wedding, she had a sour look the whole time and even told me straight out, "My brother looks great, but you. He could have married someone prettier." She openly judged me for being raised in an institution, saying it was embarrassing that I didn't have parents at the wedding. However, she got married before us and had already moved out, so I thought I wouldn't have to deal with her much. That's why I thought it would be okay to live with them. If she had still been living at home, I wouldn't have even considered moving in, knowing how she would treat me every day. I thought her stay was just temporary because of her marriage problems and expected her to leave in a few days. Even though she was stern with my father-in-law, my mother-in-law had never been harsh towards me. Even if my sister-in-law made mean comments, I believed my mother-in-law would defend me. But I was wrong. One day, when I came back from work, my mother-in-law's behavior seemed strange. "Is something bothering you?" I asked. She seemed distant, not talking to me like usual. When I asked her what was wrong, she said, "Did you know you've been talking about me behind my back?" "What? I've never said anything bad about you. You've always been kind to me, and I'm really thankful. Why would I say bad things about you? You've been acting like the perfect daughter-in-law, but you've been talking behind my back." "Whatever," she said, leaving the room. In the hallway, my sister-in-law was smirking. "Looks like you're not in her good books anymore. Did your true colors come out? Being from an orphanage, your background really does matter, huh? It's best not to gossip about people, you know." I haven't said anything bad about her. Oh, the neighbors seem to have heard everything. When I came back home after so long, they told me you've been talking badly about her all the time. What? Who are these neighbors? Well, it's been a while since I got married and moved out, so I kind of forgot their names. I never said any of that. Stop making things up. Oh, how disrespectful. Mom, she's calling me a liar and being mean to me, my sister-in-law said as she walked into my mother-in-law's room. After that, my sister-in-law's mean behavior got worse. She claimed I told her to sleep in the hallway and take the last turn for a bath because she's just a guest. She complained to my mother-in-law about every little thing. Every time, I had to explain I hadn't said or done any of it. But my mother-in-law seemed to believe my sister-in-law and be influenced by her. My sister-in-law stayed longer, making me wonder if she planned to stay forever. With all these worries, I went home feeling sad. I'm back. Before, my mother-in-law would warmly say, "Welcome back," but now it was quiet. "I'll start making dinner," I said, stepping into the living room. I was surprised. Usually, my sister-in-law would rush me to make dinner, but now my mother-in-law, father-in-law, and sister-in-law were eating sushi together. Surprised, my sister-in-law said, "Oh, looks like someone who isn't really family is here. You were planning on having sushi, were you?" My mother-in-law kept eating without looking at me, watching TV. "If you wanted sushi, you should have told me. I came home right after shopping," I said. "Ha! No one said they wanted that," my sister-in-law replied, not even looking at me. "Hey, Mom, Dad, I went out with my friends during the day and got some delicious pudding. Let's eat together," my sister-in-law said, ignoring me. They all started eating the pudding. I was tired from work and didn't have the energy to argue, so I went to my room without eating. The next day, my sister-in-law said she was going out with friends and asked me to drive her to the station. I said no because it was a weekday and I had work. Even if we were going in the same direction, it was a different route, and she wanted to leave around noon. I couldn't do it. Just take the day off. It's fine. Your cute little sis-in-law just wants a ride. She hasn't had a chance to relax since she got married, right? Can't you be a bit nicer to her now? She said. With all due respect, didn't you go out with friends last night after getting a late call? It seems like you've been going out almost every day since you came home. I have work. Please take the bus or train. My mother-in-law and sister-in-law were talking quietly, but I was done and left for work. However, that night, the event that made me decide to leave this house happened. I got delayed at work and came home after buying groceries, expecting to face some criticism. It was raining heavily when I left the office, and I got soaked just getting in and out of the car. I wondered what nasty surprise was waiting for me tonight. But when I got home, they were all eating takeout again, just like the day before. No hello, acting like they didn't see me. But I was used to it. I looked out into the courtyard from the hallway and saw something in the middle of the garden. Looking closer, I saw it was my stuff. My designer bag that I bought with my first paycheck, shoes that were a birthday gift from my husband, and even my work computer, all wet. I was shocked, and my sister-in-law said with a smirk, "Having the strangers' things in the house grossed me out, so I threw them out." Flaunting a designer bag like that, how arrogant of you. Neither of my in-laws said anything about her terrible behavior. Why didn't you stop her? Have I done something to you? Do you really believe her lies about me badmouthing you and bullying her? Aren't you upset with her for what she did? I asked. My mother-in-law avoided my eyes and stayed silent. Why won't you say anything? I asked again. I can't talk to strangers. I can't be friendly with someone who's not family, my mother-in-law replied, not even looking at me. My sister-in-law grinned, waiting for me to respond. Wait, where's my father-in-law? I've been the one supporting him during his time off. I've been the one handling finances in this house. I did it out of gratitude, but shouldn't he stand up for me now? Surely he'd be on my side. Hoping for his support, I looked at him, but he walked past me without a word and went into his room. That was it for me. I see. I've had enough. Oh, are you upset? I'm sorry. Honestly, I never liked you from the start. You know, being from an institution and all. Just don't regret leaving, my sister-in-law said. As if I would. Good riddance, I replied. I packed my things and got ready to leave right away. Only my father-in-law seemed worried because he relied on me financially. But even he didn't try to stop me or speak up for me. I was done with his indifference. Although my husband's work assignment was far away, I just wanted to get out of that house as soon as possible. I quickly got into my car and drove to him. I never talked to my husband about any of this. I doubt my mother-in-law told him about my sister-in-law coming back home. If he knew, he would have reached out to me because he knows I don't get along with her. But my husband never mentioned anything about my sister-in-law in his calls or messages. I never doubted my husband's behavior before, but maybe she's manipulating him, feeding him lies about things. Even now, as I go to him, he might treat me the same way they did. My heart was heavy, feeling suspicious even toward my husband, whom I trust the most. If he's siding with them, maybe divorce is the only option. That's how distressed I felt. When I arrived at his out-of-state apartment, he hadn't returned yet, probably busy since it was the end of the month. As I waited, my husband came in energetically, maybe noticing the lights. What? You're here. You should have told me you were coming. I would have come back sooner. What a pleasant surprise. No, just seeing your face, he said with a big smile. Seeing him happy to see me after all that happened at my in-laws' house, mixed with relief and humiliation, and I couldn't hold back my tears. What's wrong? Did I do something? Seriously, what's going on? He asked, concerned. It seemed my husband had no clue about the treatment I endured at his parents' house. I gathered myself, knowing I needed to explain everything clearly to him. I started recounting everything. How I've been financially helping his father who took medical leave without telling his wife. How his sister returned and was now staying at their parents' house. How she lied about me to his mother, turning her against me. How they treated me like an outsider, ignored me, and even ruined my belongings by leaving them out in the rain. Through tears and pauses, I poured out everything to him. Finally, I made it clear that I couldn't go back to that house ever again. And if he couldn't support me on this, I would want a divorce. My husband apologized for being too focused on work and not checking in on me more often. He regretted his family's behavior towards me. He assured me I didn't have to go back there or even talk to them again. Even if I forgave them someday, he was firm about cutting ties with his parents and sister. He also promised not to provide any more financial aid to his father. That night, I felt a huge weight lifted off my shoulders. The tension I'd been carrying melted away, and I slept peacefully by his side. After leaving my in-laws' house, I never went back. Commuting from my husband's out-of-state place wasn't practical, but I had already talked to my company about working remotely. My job didn't require me to be in the office all the time, and many of my colleagues worked from home too. Although I still had to visit the office a few times a month, some colleagues lived even farther away, so working remotely wasn't a problem. Living with my in-laws and dealing with my sister-in-law's bullying, I hadn't truly experienced married life. But now we could finally live like newlyweds. As I set up my remote workstation, as expected, my sister-in-law contacted me. It turned out that the day after I left their house was my father-in-law's payday. My mother-in-law usually takes out a certain amount and transfers it to their household account, but this time she couldn't. It was only then that she realized I had been helping them financially during my father-in-law's time off. "Hey, why didn't you tell me you were covering the living expenses?" He asked me not to, saying he didn't want you to know, so I kept it to myself. Anyway, we're running out of money for living expenses and there's no one to cook or do laundry. The place is a mess. As his wife, you need to come back and take care of these things and send money quickly. How heartless. I already told you, didn't I? I have no intention of going back to that house or being treated like your maid. Why should I help people who hate me, ruin my things, and treat me like this? Aren't you his wife? Without your help, we can't pay the bills or even shop. That's exactly why I'm saying it. I'm an outsider, so it's none of my business, right? I hung up, ignoring my sister-in-law's complaints. She and my mother-in-law kept bothering me with calls and messages, but I ignored all of them. Even after my husband returned from work, they kept calling persistently. When my husband finally answered, he told them firmly, "I will forgive you for how you treated her, and I'm not sending her back to you. I'm not coming back either. I don't see you as my family anymore. Leave my wife alone, or you'll regret it." Considering my sister-in-law adored her brother and my mother-in-law heavily relied on him, they were probably shocked. A few days later, I got a call from my father-in-law. He said living with my mother-in-law and sister-in-law was getting too hard, and he begged me to continue the financial help. I'm grateful they accepted me when I married, despite growing up in an orphanage, but they didn't support me when I needed it, despite all the financial help I provided. I don't owe them anything. Why should I help those who joined others in ignoring me? I'll never assist you again. And with that, I ended the call. Later on, my persistent mother-in-law and sister-in-law shamelessly showed up at my workplace. Since I was already working remotely and had a bad feeling about them, I had informed my company about the situation. Security was alerted right away. They caused a scene, demanding that the company make me send money back home. When my husband heard about it, he said, "Report them to the police." My colleagues were supportive, saying, "I can't believe you had to live with those people. Focus on your remote work with your husband." As for my in-laws, my father-in-law's health declined under the pressure from my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, and he eventually quit his job. My sister-in-law tried to return to her husband's family, but he refused to take her back. The town quickly learned about her drama at my workplace, causing an uproar at her in-law's place. The real reason for their fight was her affair, and this incident added to their problems, leading to an immediate decision to divorce. Left without a home, my in-laws and sister-in-law moved to a cheap apartment, managing with part-time jobs. As for my husband and me, we're finally enjoying peaceful days, feeling mentally and physically fulfilled. Recently, we found out we're expecting a child, and we couldn't be happier. We're eagerly awaiting the day we meet our baby, cherishing our time together. Don't come back here because my girlfriend and I are going to live in this house. On the day my 3-year-old daughter was finally allowed to come home from the hospital after being there for a month, I returned to find my husband living with another woman. I was shocked by his betrayal. Both he and his girlfriend laughed at me, mocking me. To make things worse, my husband had the nerve to call me back to clean up the house, essentially kicking me out. Furious, I talked to some people and made sure my husband and his girlfriend faced consequences for their actions. My name is Emily, I met my husband Michael through my sister's husband, and we lived together with our 3-year-old daughter. We built our house while I was pregnant. We chose everything together, keeping it white inside and out, which I really liked. However, white gets dirty easily, so it needs a lot of cleaning. My husband gets very upset if there is even a small stain. He gets angry when our daughter spills food or dirties the walls. But he never helps clean up. He just complains that the house is dirty. He always points out the tiniest details, and lately I've been getting really fed up with it. Initially, I quit my job and became a full-time housewife after we got married. But when our daughter started kindergarten, I decided to work part-time to save money for the future. Since I started working, I hoped my husband would help more with housework and childcare. However, he thinks that my part-time job is my own choice. So he continues to leave all the household and childcare duties to me, just like before. One day, after sending our daughter to kindergarten, my sister and her husband, who live nearby, were supposed to visit our house. I tried to tidy up as much as possible while helping my daughter get ready in the morning. My husband got annoyed that our daughter was touching things with her messy hands and called me before he left for work, complaining that I wasn't disciplining her properly. Even though he used to adore her when she was born, lately he looks at her as if she is something dirty. I try not to show my feelings in front of our daughter, but his attitude has been really upsetting me. Because my husband complained, I was running late to take my daughter to kindergarten and rushed to get back home to meet my sister and her husband. They had decided to visit just 2 days earlier when they called to see if I had time to meet. I thought they must have something important to talk about, but when I saw them at the front door, I realized it might not be good news. I invited my sister and her husband into the living room, and although they complimented our always clean house, their expressions remained serious. After I served them coffee, my sister's husband finally gathered the courage to speak. Actually, I've heard some not-so-good rumors about Michael. What he said next was unbelievable. Apparently, my husband was having an affair with a coworker. My husband was originally introduced to me by my sister's husband, but they weren't directly acquainted. It was through a mutual friend of theirs, my husband's brother. In other words, my brother-in-law. My brother-in-law's friend works at the same company as my husband, and he had heard some bad rumors from a colleague. One of the colleagues said that a female coworker had been going around saying she has a boyfriend in the company, and it seemed like she was talking about my husband. Just as my brother-in-law's friend was trying to discreetly find out if the rumors were true, he accidentally stumbled upon my husband and the woman together. They weren't even trying to hide it, openly flirting at the company. His friend was shocked, took a photo of them, and reported it to my brother-in-law. Then my brother-in-law told my sister's husband and showed him the photo. Even though my sister's husband initially couldn't believe it, he had to accept the truth when he saw the photo evidence. He had the photos with him, but I chose not to look at them. My sister and her husband apologized, feeling sorry for introducing me to a man who would cheat. Finding out about my husband's affair left me unsure of what to do. I had never doubted him before my sister's husband shared his story. Most of all, I didn't want to take my daughter's father away from her. But I also couldn't bear the idea of being betrayed. Just as I was about to discuss next steps with my sister and her husband, my phone rang. It was the kindergarten, informing me that my daughter had a high fever and needed to be picked up. It looks like my daughter is sick with a fever, so I needed to go pick her up. When I mentioned this, my sister and her husband, who had come by car, offered to come with me to get my daughter. The 3 of us went together to pick her up from kindergarten. When we got to the kindergarten, my daughter looked exhausted, and it was clear her illness was more serious than a common cold. Her cheeks appeared swollen, and her teacher mentioned that a classmate had MPS, raising concerns that my daughter might have it too. We hurried to the hospital and informed the reception about our suspicions regarding MPS, given her symptoms. They decided she needed immediate tests because there was a risk of complications. While waiting for the test results, I became anxious and tried calling my husband, but he didn't answer and didn't call me back. Soon after, we learned from the test results that my daughter had MPS and had developed meningitis. She was admitted to the hospital immediately and settled into a room. After getting an explanation about her hospitalization and seeing that she was asleep, I decided to go home to prepare for her stay. My sister and her husband offered to stay with her, so I called a taxi and headed home. Late at night, my husband finally returned my call. He sounded annoyed that I had called him while he was at work and said sharply, Don't call me during work. I explained our daughter's condition, her fever, hospitalization, and meningitis diagnosis, but he didn't seem to grasp how serious it was. He responded dismissively, "You're with her at the hospital, so don't bother me with every little thing. I'll stay there for a while to be with her." "All right, I'll leave it to you," he said, and then abruptly hung up without expressing any concern for our daughter. As a result, my daughter stayed in the hospital for over a month. During that time, my sister, her husband, my parents, and even my in-laws visited us frequently, worried about her. Surprisingly, my husband never visited once. When it was time for my daughter to be discharged, I asked my husband to pick us up, but he refused, claiming he was too busy with work. I shared this with my sister, and she and her husband offered to drive us home instead. On the day of my daughter's discharge, my sister's husband drove us home. It was a relief to see my daughter back to her normal self after such a long ordeal. However, when we arrived home, I noticed my husband's car in the parking lot, even though he was supposed to be at work. Through the window, I could see the silhouette of a woman inside. My sister and her husband also saw it and were furious, convinced it was his affair partner. I stopped them from barging in, left my sleeping daughter with them in the car, and went inside alone. When I entered the living room, I saw a woman standing close to my husband, just as I had seen from outside the window. When my husband noticed me, he quickly moved away from her. But it was already too late. I had seen everything. "Hey, I'm back. Who's this?" I asked him. Instead of answering, my husband stepped in front of the woman as if to shield her from me. Ignoring my question, he demanded, "Why are you here?" I couldn't believe it. He had forgotten the day our daughter was supposed to come home from the hospital. "I told you today was the day she's getting out of the hospital," I insisted. "No way. You said it was tomorrow. You tricked me into coming back today." My husband's response made it clear he had been so focused on bringing his mistress home that he forgot about our daughter. The woman peeked around my husband, looked at me, and smirked. Then she remarked to him, "Is this your wife?" What a chubby old lady. Hearing that, my husband's attitude hardened as he declared, "Yeah, I've got a young and cute girlfriend now. We decided to live here together, so don't come back." He put his arm around his mistress, as if to emphasize their relationship. I recalled the moment my sister's husband had revealed the affair to me. Despite my initial hesitation about divorce, witnessing my husband's behavior during our daughter's hospitalization shattered any remaining love I have for him. He hadn't visited our daughter even once in the hospital, leaving me to handle everything alone while he took advantage of my absence to spend time with his mistress in our home. I had taken time off from my part-time job and was exhausted from running between the hospital and home. Instead of supporting me during this difficult time, he was flaunting his new relationship and demanding I stay away from our own house. I was forced to clean up after my husband and his mistress, who had the audacity to tell me not to come back home. Exhausted and unable to argue any longer, I quickly packed my things and returned to the car where my sister and her husband were waiting. As I left, my husband and his mistress laughed at me. In the car, I shared what had happened with my sister and her husband. They were ready to confront my husband, but I stopped them. I didn't want my daughter to witness a scene like that, so I asked them to take us to my parents' house instead. We found a warm welcome there, and my daughter gradually improved while staying with my parents. From the time our daughter started crawling, my husband seemed only concerned about cleanliness and rarely interacted with her. His affection for her was fleeting, and she likely doesn't have many memories of him being loving or attentive. She never expressed a desire to see her father or mentioned feeling lonely. I didn't have the energy to confront my husband when I left our house, but I couldn't let things continue like this. Now that my daughter was recovering and could possibly return to kindergarten, I started to consider what to do about my husband. One day, I got a call from him. Curious about what he wanted to say, I answered. He bluntly told me, "The house is dirty. Come back and clean it." Even though he should have been living there with his affair partner, it seemed like neither of them did any housework. My sister had mentioned she was young and likely hadn't lived on her own before, leaving household chores to her family. It was absurd for my husband, who had told me not to return, to now demand that I come back just to clean. His request struck me as incredibly selfish. I declined his request in disbelief. "You should clean your own house, or maybe that girl you're having an affair with can do it," I retorted, hanging up the phone. Despite my husband's persistent calls afterward, I ignored them all. I could only imagine his frustration on the other end, unsure of what would happen next. Later that night, after putting my daughter to bed with the help of my parents, I was folding laundry in the living room when I heard a commotion at the front door. Curious, I went to investigate. As I opened the door, I was shocked to see my husband and his affair partner standing there, completely soaked in red. Behind them, my sister and her husband, along with my in-laws, stood with stern expressions, ensuring they couldn't escape. My husband and his affair partner apologized, saying, "We are truly sorry." However, my sister, her husband, and my in-laws didn't accept their apology. What covered them from head to toe was not blood but tomato juice. After my husband had called me to clean the house, I immediately informed my sister, her husband, and my in-laws about it. My sister and her husband visited my husband first, while my in-laws, who lived nearby, drove over to his place. My sister and her husband tricked my husband into going to the garden, pretending they needed some gardening tools I owned. When he turned his back, they pelted him with tomatoes. Startled, he turned around, only to have more tomatoes thrown at his face. These tomatoes were overripe and very soft, sourced as waste from a farm owned by a relative of my sister's husband. They wouldn't have caused much physical pain upon impact, but their squishy insides splattered easily, which clearly affected my husband, who prized cleanliness. My sister and her husband didn't give him a chance to react and continued throwing tomatoes. The tomatoes not only hit my husband but also splattered against the pristine white walls of the house, causing chaos. As this unfolded, my in-laws arrived on the scene. My husband was now being bombarded with tomatoes by my sister, her husband, and my in-laws. Amidst his panic screams and flailing, his affair partner, curious about the commotion, appeared in the garden. Without hesitation, she too became a target for the tomatoes. Attempting to flee back inside, she was forcefully pulled back out by my sister and ended up running alongside my husband in the garden. I overheard everything while on the phone from the moment my sister and her husband showed up at my husband's place. Every time the walls outside got dirty, my husband would scream sadly, and his affair partner would join in crying and panicking. Eventually, my sister, her husband, and my in-laws threw all the tomatoes they had brought. By then, the two of them had calmed down completely. They were then walked to my parents' house nearby. Even though I can never forgive what my husband and his lover did, hearing my husband's pitiful voice and the lover's cries made me feel a bit better. It was almost funny to see them both so desperate, apologizing to me. My sister's husband came up with this plan. After my daughter left the hospital, I began to doubt my husband's behavior during her stay. I decided to set up the baby monitor we used when she was little in our bedroom. I suspected that if my sister's husband was right, my husband might have been bringing his lover to our house while our daughter and I were away. I was anxious that the hidden baby monitor, concealed near a houseplant, would be discovered at any moment. Fortunately, neither my husband nor his lover found it, and it captured everything they did. Since the day my daughter was in the hospital, it seemed like my husband was living with his lover at our house part-time. Each time I returned home, I saved the recorded footage as proof. After my daughter left the hospital and I confirmed my husband's affair, I confided in my sister and her husband about the video evidence and sought their advice on what to do next. They suggested involving my in-laws first. My in-laws live about a 30-minute drive away and are usually calm people, unlike my husband who often gets angry. So with my sister and her husband, I took the evidence to my in-laws' house. At first, they found it hard to believe that their son could cheat. However, when we showed them the footage, they saw undeniable proof of my husband being intimate with his lover. They had no choice but to believe me. What's worse, my husband was heard saying hurtful things about our daughter, like how she just makes a mess and isn't cute at all, and that he wanted to throw both her and me out. This revelation made my in-laws furious. They wanted to confront my husband immediately. But my sister, her husband, and I convinced them to hold off for the moment. When my husband found out I knew about the affair, he became defiant. We didn't want to give in to his wishes for a quick divorce, so we discussed with my in-laws how to come up with a fitting punishment. Seeing the evidence on the video, my in-laws were also deeply hurt and immediately agreed to our plan. After brainstorming together, we decided on a unique punishment, throwing tomatoes at him. This idea came from my sister's husband, who had studied in Spain and was inspired by the tomato festival there. We thought it would be satisfying because my husband really dislikes getting dirty, and throwing tomatoes wouldn't cause any harm. It was also convenient timing since my sister's husband's relatives, who are farmers, had an excess of tomatoes that were going to be discarded. Initially, I was taken aback by the unusual idea, but I soon realized that simply throwing tomatoes wouldn't suffice. I felt my husband deserved to experience some discomfort from being hit by tomatoes, so I agreed to the plan. My sister, her husband, and my in-laws were all set to carry it out. I wanted to join in throwing tomatoes at my husband as well, but I was still concerned about my daughter's well-being and couldn't leave my parents' house. Additionally, my sister and her husband felt guilty for introducing me to my husband, and my in-laws felt responsible for how they raised their son. So it was decided that the four of them would proceed with the plan without me. I made sure they promised to do it outside the house, not inside. Despite my disappointment at not being able to throw tomatoes myself, witnessing my husband and his lover in such a pitiful state, thanks to my family, was oddly satisfying. I had already informed my parents about my husband's affair, so when they were brought to my parents' house, they were visibly uneasy. I threw the divorce papers at my husband without looking him in the eye and said firmly, "Let's get divorced. I have all the evidence of your affair. You'll also need to pay child support." Upon hearing the mention of child support, the lover reacted with disbelief. It seemed she had been imagining marrying my husband, becoming a housewife, and living comfortably. Realizing that child support payments could burden her financially, she began denying any involvement, claiming, "I have nothing to do with this man." That's when I mentioned the footage from the baby monitor. At this point, the lover argued that it was an invasion of privacy, and my husband backed her up, threatening legal action against me. However, my in-laws, along with my sister and her husband, scolded them harshly. Still shaken from the tomato incident, both of them fell silent quickly. When I reiterated to my husband that he needed to agree to the divorce, he reluctantly began to complain. "I've been supporting you all this time, and as a housewife, you should obey your husband. You can't even clean properly. You were a useless wife. It's only natural that I cheated on you," my husband sarcastically remarked, mocking the idea of a part-time working mother being able to support herself. However, there was a reason why I decided to return to my parents' house this time. It wasn't just because my parents and my sister and her husband welcomed me back, but also because I was offered a full-time position at my part-time job. When I informed my husband about this opportunity, he clicked his tongue in frustration. That's when I made it clear to him that my daughter and I would never return to that house again. Predictably, my husband started complaining about who would clean the walls of the house. But ultimately, it was his infidelity that caused all of this, and he was entirely at fault. When he demanded that I pay for cleaning the exterior, my in-laws had had enough. They disowned him right then and there for bringing up such trivial matters at this point. After being disowned by my in-laws, my husband unexpectedly proposed to his mistress. Covered in tomato and feeling humiliated, she had lost all affection for him, and the idea of paying child support added to her rejection. She bluntly told my husband, "I'm not interested in a man without money," leaving him stunned. Under our stern gazes, my husband reluctantly agreed to our divorce. We informed them that we would continue discussions through our lawyers, and then we sent my husband and his mistress away. I'm not sure what they discussed on their way back, but apparently they ended up angrily arguing and parted ways, cursing each other out. Afterwards, my husband ended up living alone in our house, struggling to manage the mortgage and child support payments on his own. He tried seeking help from his brother, but was coldly turned away and cut off from his family. Now he had no one left to rely on. Meanwhile, the mistress faced repercussions from the rumors about her relationship with my husband. She ended up quitting her job, and when her affair was discovered by her parents, they disowned her just like my husband's family did to him. She was kicked out of her parents' home and now lives in a cheap, run-down apartment. During the day, she works part-time, and at night, she works in a nightclub to make ends meet. My sister once spotted the mistress working at a store's register and remarked how much weight she had lost and how aged she looked, despite being in her early 20s. It's heartbreaking to think about how a single mistake could dramatically alter someone's life and rob them of so many potential happy moments. As for me, I've started working full-time with the support of my parents, sister, and her husband, who welcomed me back to their home. It's challenging at times, but I'm beginning to feel a sense of achievement as I take on more responsibilities at work. My daughter has settled into living with my parents and is thriving each day. When we lived with my husband, she struggled to get along with adult men, likely due to his yelling. Now, she's gradually overcoming that thanks to the kindness shown by my sister's husband and my father. Surrounded by a caring family, my daughter and I are now enjoying a peaceful and happy life.